guessing that we have in fact, through the course of this presentation, invited more questions than we have answered, because that's what we do. Luckily for you, we're now going to do a little bit of Q&A with Principal Lead Writer Daniel Boris-Fulgo Erickson. So, Daniel, come up here on stage.
Now, as he comes up, I want to mention, those of you that got stickers on the way in that may have rating on the back of them, you can trade those in on the way out the door for this lovely piece of swag.
So, check your sticker, check the back. If it says something completely unintelligible, but that is yet writing, you just got it. Excellent. I think we have microphones in the aisles. I'm not sure if we do. Hopefully we do. And we probably also have some lights that are going to go up on those folks. There we go. Aha. Excellent. So here are the rules. Rules are, one question. If you try to ask a second question, I will make fun of your physical appearance. And rule number two, if you ask about Darth Revan, Daniel will make fun of your physical appearance, and he's a lot better at it than I am. So, there you go. Jump up, line up in the aisle. Let's get through as many questions as we possibly can here, folks.
Woohoo! Does the mic work?
There's someone.
Alright, before we can start that up, let's talk about this Boris Olgo stuff. They keep making fun of Boris Olgo because they're noobs. For those who are KOTOR fans, Trav! That's right! He taught us to wear pants! We will never be able to repay that. We would have been pantsless the entire game.
I have been owned, I think.
Alright, let's start on the right here. My right. I don't care about your right.
Okay. I was just wondering if we would be able to have different color lightsabers, like the black and silver.
So the question was, are we going to see some of the more unusual colored lightsabers, like the black and the silver? There is a broad spectrum of crystals available out in the galaxy. We have not made final plans on some of the more esoteric ones. They all have very specific canonical connotations as far as what they represent and how they come to be. So there are still discussions afoot. On the left.
I was wondering if there's going to be a lot of cross-class stuff, like bounty hunters being able to use lightsabers, that kind of thing?
Is there going to be a lot of cross-class stuff? The example given was bounty hunters using lightsabers. There will not be bounty hunters using lightsabers. There is a lot of cross-class, thank you. There will be a lot of cross-class story elements. There's a lot of stuff that happens between the pieces. As lead writer, one of my main jobs is to look at all the stuff that's happening interestingly between the different classes and see how to pull it together and pull together the bigger story. If you really want to know all the things that's happening in the Tor galaxy, you really want to play through all of the different classes, but we will not be giving bounty hunters lightsabers. All right.
With the multiplayer conversation system, say there's something with lasting effect. If somebody else answers for me, is it buyer beware who I'm playing with? Or am I going to be able to fix that for my character?
So the question was multiplayer dialogue, which is something that people did realize was in there. So at some point today and yesterday during PAX, people started to realize, hey, it's not a demo. The whole game is here. And people started doing /invite, and all of a sudden we saw people in multiplayer dialogue. And the question was, I'm in multiplayer dialogue, and I lose. I lose the vote. Right? We're trying to figure out whether we're going to do something dark side or light side, and I didn't get my way. Is it, as he said, buyer beware? Have you changed something in your game? Yes. Yes, you have. Now, one of the things that we're doing right now is the light side, dark side system goes by intention. So because you were the guy standing in front of the person saying, you know what, let's not kill him. We really don't need to kill this guy. You still get your light side points, even though Blaine already shot him in the head. This guy? Were we not going to kill this guy? One of the things we've already started to see through testing is that groups tend to pull together. I always use the Han Solo example. When we start out and we see Han Solo, he's clearly a dark side smuggler. He doesn't care about anybody, he's doing his own thing. But he kind of gets pushed into taking a light side quest, and he's like, okay, this once we'll save the princess. Alright, we'll fight the Death Star. Okay, by the end of the campaign, he's just light side. Right? He always plays with the light side group, so he said, alright, screw it, I'll be light side, I'm going to be a general, and I'm going to have kids, and hang out with slaves, alright. keep asking is, if I play with people, will it change my experience? The answer is yes. This is the horrifying thing that happens when you go out and socialize with humans. So is space combat going to be a rail shooter? Excuse me?
Is space combat just a rail shooter?
Space combat is a rail shooter. Well, we say tube shooter because a rail shooter technically sticks you in one place. A tube shooter, you have a lot more sort of move around. This is something that obviously the community, like, there were a lot of questions around. We came up with space combat the same way we came up with everything else. We took all the footage from all the movies and put it together. And you guys are really into Star Wars. You know your movies, right? Yeah? Alright. So you guys remember that part where Han Solo and Chewbacca are in the Millennium Falcon? And then he's like, hey Chewie, let's go into space and let's just dick around. Let's just go off that direction and let's see if there's anything interesting just floating around randomly in space. And then you remember they went off and there was an asteroid and they like mined the asteroid and they found some loot. And then they just kind of like tooled around. We couldn't find that either. What we found is two things happen in space. One, you wanted to go somewhere and you went through hyperspace really fast. Bam, and you got there. Two, you wanted to go to a battle or you tried to go somewhere and someone stopped you. Boom, uh-oh, giant exciting combat. Capital ships are coming out of hyperspace. Ships are everywhere. Everything's getting blown up. Everything is colorful, beautiful, huge things, and then we're done. And then we go on and do something else. And that is why we went for the space combat we did.
Movie moments is really what we're trying to deliver there.
On the right, with the awesome glasses.
I think, will a Jedi Knight be able to learn how to use Force Choke or Force Lightning?
Ah, will a Jedi Knight be able to use, what was the first one, Force Choke?
Yeah.
Force Choke and Force Lightning. There are abilities that walk the line, which is sort of what the question is do you have light side, dark side abilities? There are also sort of trademark abilities. And the two that you named, both Force Lightning and Force Choke are sort of single-class trademark abilities. So Force Choke belongs to the Warrior. It's nice, it gives him something friendly to do in conversations, as you saw. Force Lightning tends to belong to the Inquisitor for the same thing, and we see a lot. One of the questions we had earlier, we asked ourselves is if you could shoot lightning out of your fingertips, how often would that come up in conversations? Turns out a lot. So there are some nicer abilities you can get as a Sith, there are some harsher abilities you can get as a Jedi, but the really sort of trademark ones, we've tried to keep particular classes to give them something to make their own.
In terms of story and plot, are there going to be, I guess, penalties, or do people react differently if you're like a good Sith or a really evil Jedi?
So one of the questions was, are there going to be plot penalties? Are there going to be different reactions if you're a really good Sith or really evil Jedi? And that's a good one, because it shows he already understands the basics, right? So everybody understands faction is different from morality. You can be a light side Sith. In fact, you're starting in a very different place. So yeah, there are definitely plot reactions. There are definitely people who will come to reinforce one thing or another. Luckily, most of the people that you're dealing with as NPCs can't see your bar. And we no longer give light side, dark side points for talking a good game. Okay, we wanted to allow you to be snarky, and it doesn't make any sense with the separation of factions for a Sith to go up to his master and say, just so you know, I'm light side and I like duckies and rainbows. He's going to get stomped. They do rule, I'm with that.
With duckies and rainbows.
Yeah, clearly. But it's the moment that you choose, right? If your master says, hey, go kill all these young ones, and you say, that sounds so cool. I'm going to go get some blood, it's going to be great. You don't get dark side points for that, because we are actually being as a smart Sith. When you get dark side points is when you show up and you make that decision. When you've gone to the point where it can't go any further, when that person's standing in front of you and is like, hey, don't kill me, and you actually make that choice. Or you're playing multiplayer and your buddy makes that choice. But remember, at that point, if you're being nice, you'd still get your light side points, you'd just be sort of disappointed. That's when it comes in. But there are times, there is actually a point, and there is a point in Corbin that we've had probably more shock reactions. And I'm going to go ahead and spoil this you get sent into a tomb to collect all the shards from the different parts of the tomb. You're really learning about your ancestry. You're doing these pieces. You come back out of it. You've run an entire tomb, so it's you know, a quarter of Corbin. For those of you who've played, it's a big place. And you get back, and Clemmerall, who's one of the other Sith that's training with you, he's not very good. And he tries to jump you with a whole bunch of other dudes, and it doesn't work. And then afterwards, he's very apologetic, and he's like, hey, you know what? Like, I tried, and I couldn't get in there, and I couldn't get the tombs, and I couldn't get the shards, and they're gonna kill me, and I'm not gonna get Sith, what am I gonna do? And there was an ultra light side choice, and you can give him your shards. Boo! But it gets worse. It gets worse. Because the amount of people who were shocked when they gave him the shards, and then saw their quest tracker change back to collect the shards from 2 to 3. And he came to me, and every time they objected, I said, well, why did you give them your shards? And they said, I didn't think the game would let me. Being a light side Sith is hard. Being a dark side Jedi and getting away with it is hard. These are some of the more fun and interesting challenges in the game. One of the things that BioWare has always believed is it is the choice to be able to go dark side that makes being heroic actually heroic. If you don't have that in front of you, then you just did what you had to do, not what you chose to do.
Did you get experience for it?
Well, you got to run the whole tomb twice. You probably got a lot of experience.
Throwbacks to the first KOTOR game in this, with all the Revan stuff in HK-47. I know you guys didn't make it, but will there be any references to KOTOR 2 in this?
Absolutely. Okay, so the question was KOTOR 2. So here's the issue. People have said that, like, oh, we keep seeing Revan, we keep seeing this stuff. What happened in KOTOR 2 was odd, was in a very strange sort of corner of what was going on, and outside of the Jedi, most people don't understand it. So you don't see a lot of it on the galactic scale. In the timelines, you don't see them talking about what was actually going on with the Sith, because it wasn't like the giant civil war. It was this very, very odd thing that was happening in the back, very specific to what was tearing apart the Force. But when you're in the game, especially if you're playing a Jedi or you're playing a Sith, there's a huge amount of what happened in that, and a huge amount of what happened not only with Revan, but remember, Revan went off into deep space to find out what was happening that was bad, and the Exile followed him. So we actually have 2 stories that we have to finish off. Last man standing.
In the gameplay footage we were watching before them play, the Jedi Consort didn't look that appealing. He was kind of sat there and heal. Is it actually more exciting?
No, one of the problems we had with the demo is that the Jedi Consort had to run the camera.
Yeah.
So the Jedi Consort had to be the person to actually show you what was happening on the screen. We don't actually have any healbot trained classes. So yes, the Jedi Consort is actually much more interesting than displayed by a movie where he had to actually be the cameraman.
Excellent. Well, I think we must have run out of time. That's why no one's allowed to come back up. So that's the end of our Q&A. Daniel Erickson, everybody.
Well, folks, that is it. Thank you so much. We are always happy to hear at PAX because you guys are the best fans. Again, please play the game, be there, check it out for yourselves. 6 classes available.